another video. So in this video I'm going to go through how to use Notion, which is my favourite app for doing all of my university work on. So it's really hard to get set up with this and get started, but once you get started on it, it really is fantastic. There is nothing else like it. So this is just going to be a bit of a tutorial on how to get it all laid out and how to get started really. So I'm going to start off by showing you how I set mine out. So this is what my home screen looks like. So I've got obviously medicine, I've got a little task list here. I've got some extra reading, which is stuff which is related to the course but isn't specifically taught, that I might have encountered on the internet or something. And then I've got all of my bonus questions, so all of the questions that I get wrong frequently. So in themes, UEA is split up into themes, so things like public health, pathology, ethics, all that sort of stuff. And if you're at medical school, it may well be split up in a similar sort of way. And this is where I save all of my work. So let's just, for example, go to pathology, and you can see down the left hand side here we've got all of the different lectures. So let's just go into Carcinogenesis 3, and here I've got all of my questions for this lecture. So because UEA is also split up into weeks as well, because it's based around PBL cases, I've then got everything saved separately in terms. So let's just go to here, for example. So you can see that I've got everything, also the lectures also saved here, and then I've got some extra bits of information down here which might be related to the PBL cases. So that's pretty much how I've got mine set out. So it basically relies on having two different ways of organising your work. So let's just start off with a bit of an overview on the basics of Notion. So I'll start a new page completely from scratch. So let's go to add page, and here we go. So I've got a completely new page. This is roughly what it will look like when you first get Notion. And this is going to be, imagine it like a file system almost. So I'm going to call this medicine, so let's call it. So it's a bit like a combination of a files app and a note-taking app. So you can write anywhere, but you can also have what's called pages, which you can think of either as web pages or folders. So to create a page, we can press the slash and type the first two letters, and then the page comes up and we can make a page. So let's just call that, for example, just call that themes, or let's go for topics. So now that we've got a page, or basically a folder within medicine, and in there we can type, or we can make another page and call that whatever we like. So hopefully you're starting to see roughly the sort of things you can do with it. So with this slash button, we can use this to bring up a whole selection of different commands. So you can either just start writing text, make a page, a to-do list, different types of headings, bullet points, toggle lists, which are my favourite, and I'll come on to them in a bit. You may have seen me mention them in a previous video. You can link to pages, which is something else we'll come on to in a bit, which is really, really important and a fantastic feature of Notion. It really sets it apart. And you can make databases, so different tables, and we'll also be using them soon. So there really are lots of different things you can do with this. So you need to start off and think of a basic file format, so how you want to organise your work. So that might be by topic, so we've got here, so if you're doing medicine, it's like pathology, physiology or something, or it might be by system, so musculoskeletal or gastro or neuro or something, you can do whatever you want with this. Obviously it depends what course you do and how your course is structured, but I've gone for topics, and this is where we're going to save the bulk of what we're doing. So within topics, you need to create a page for each separate topic that you think you're going to have. So let's just create a few, as if we're a medical student. So let's go pathology, physiology, I'll just do a few as an example. Let's keep with the P, let's go psychology, and another P, let's go for public health. Okay, so these are our different topics. So we're going to open up a topic, so let's just go for, let's open up pathology. So within each topic page, we're going to press the slash button and scroll down to where it says table in line. And you can leave it untitled, I do half the time, but let's just call it pathology. In the left hand column, we're going to have each lecture. So let's just start off with, let's go acute inflammation. Sorry, these are just lectures which we've had and which I remember the names of, so it doesn't really matter, these can be anything obviously. Carcinogenesis. One. Okay, so there's just a few examples of lectures. So within here you can click on them and then open them up as a new page. So in there, this is going to be the page that we keep all of our notes or questions. Okay, and in the rest of the table we can do pretty much whatever we want with it, but I'm going to start off by doing this tags column. So you can see we can add a tag to each lecture. So I like to do my tags based on, so I have a tag for when the lecture was, so we'll go year 1.1, so that was year 1 term 1, and I can create that tag. And then for example it's like general pathology, or let's call it immunology, and then we can do similar thing for here, so let's say that was year 1.2, and that is bones. Okay, so now we can select a tag for each lecture, or multiple tags for each lecture, and we can search and filter depending on what we want. So if I want bones, then only the bone lectures will come up. So you can see how you can sort of work that out. Okay, so that's the first column. In the second column, I have the date which I last reviewed that lecture. So we're going to go to the heading of the column and go to Files and Media and call that Date. And I'm going to rename that Date Reviewed. Okay, so then we can click on that and just select a date from the calendar. In the next column, I like to have my score, so how well roughly I did on that lecture. So let's go score, and we can make that into a multi-select column as well. So I'll go good, or let's go excellent, and colour that one green, just so it's visually easier to do. Okay, colour that one yellow, and bad, and colour that one red. Okay, so now we can see that I can choose a date that I reviewed it. Let's say I reviewed it yesterday, and we can give it a score of how well I did. So let's just go through and have a look. Let's say I did that then, and my score was bad. So you can kind of see, it makes it really easy to track what work you're doing. So this is basically what you want to do for all of your different topics, all the way down. So now we've set this up, I'm just going to go into one of the lectures randomly, and this is how you can, or this is just how I organise my questions. So it does really depend on what the content is, but I usually start by going for slash and giving it a heading, and then let's just go neutrophils. Okay, and then we can go toggle, so slash and toggle, and then you write the question on this line here. So let's just go, what is the main role of neutrophils? And then if we go enter and tab, we can write the answer, and we can either write the answer as a really brief answer and then put another question on it to hide some information to make us recall some more, or we can just write the answer in full under there. So it's really good for sort of recalling all your information. So that's roughly how I set mine out. I'll just show you how it is on my actual notes. So let's go back into pathology and go for carcinogenesis 3. So here we go. I've got my my heading here, so explain the consequences of tumor metastases, and then all of the questions that I've got which are based around the lectures from there. So let's make some more lectures in each page, in each topic. So let's make another table. We've got our topics organised in this folder, in our topics folder, and now what we're going to do is introduce the second level of organisation. So these are the topics, but obviously you'll have lots of different lectures in each topic throughout your time at university. So I'm also going to organise it by year, so this is especially important for medicine obviously because it's like 5 years long. So let's make another page and call this year 1. And then make one for each term as well. So let's go page, term 1. Okay, so at this point we can either do a heading for each week, so we can go heading 1, week 1, week 2, week 3, etc. Do it all the way down the page. So for now we're just going to do that, but you could organise it within another page here as well. We're going to insert a link for each lecture under this week. So for week 1 we can go / and then link and select link to a page. So let's go for HPO axis. Here we go. So we can now jump straight to that lecture, even though it's saved somewhere else. So there's the lecture, and we've got the properties in the table, so the tags are in here, even though it's saved somewhere else. So let's put another one in, link to page, and let's go for carcinogenesis 1. There we go. So you can see we can link to that page as well, and just for an example, we've got that I reviewed it on the 3rd of July and scored bad on that, and that was year 1.2. So hopefully you can see where we're going with this. This second level of organisation can be whatever you want. It doesn't have to be by week. It can be, say if you're doing history, it can be by a certain country's history or a certain period in history. So that is our basic organisation of this. So just to recap, we've got our topics, and each lecture is saved within a database in each topic, where we can give it tags and scores and things. And then as a further level of organisation, we've got a link to all of those lectures within a separate page for each either week or term or whatever. So for UEA especially, as we do PBLs by week, this means that I can put any PBL notes that we get from PBL group under here as well. So now let's go into a little bit more detail of some extra features. So I'm going to go back into pathology. In fact, let's go to physiology. Okay, and we're going to go and find a YouTube video which we may have used when we were going through the lecture and found really useful. And let's go for skeletal muscle physiology, and where's this guy? Here we go. So I'm going to copy the link for this and paste it here. So you can see we get three options: dismiss, create bookmark, or create embedded, and we're going to go for create embedded. So I'll click this, and then once it loads, we now have the YouTube video and it's playable within Notion itself without having to leave the app. So under here we can have toggles and all of our questions, and rather than having notes from the lecture, we can have a YouTube video which is basically teaching it to us. So I really like to use this for topics which are quite hard to understand, because often it's a lot easier if you've got someone explaining things to you with diagrams as well there anyway. So when you come to review it, you haven't got to draw back and try and get through it and understand it, and it won't take as long. You just got a nice YouTube video there, or to teach you the understanding of it. So that's the first thing you can embed. You can also embed PDFs and web pages. So I'm going to go and find a web page, and let's go muscle contraction. So let's just insert one in here as well. So we can also create an embedded for this. Wait for it to load. So you can see here that we've actually got the web page within the within Notion itself. So we can interact with the web page in Notion and we never have to leave it. So this is especially good using websites like Geeky Medics, which if you're a medical student you know is basically the holy grail of your degree. So let's just go for, let's choose something random. Here we go. So I'll copy this and create an embedded in here. So you can see there we have the whole web page and all of the notes we might need, all the reference material, without actually having to leave the app, which makes it a hell of a lot quicker, and you're much less likely to get distracted when you're going through it as well. So there's just two examples of embedding things. You can also embed photos and PDFs. Okay, so we've got everything set up, and we've gone through some of the basic features. So embedding, which is a really key one. The last big thing we're going to go through is tagging a time to a block of text. So let's go back into pathology and go into acute inflammation. So if we want, for example, if we didn't know the answer to this question when we last reviewed it and we weren't very good at it, we can highlight it and press Command Shift H, and it will highlight or colour the text to the last colour that we used. So the last use was red, so we Command Shift H and it highlighted it red. So we can use that, and then to remind us to do the question again, which obviously we need to do if we want to, if we've got any chance of remembering it long term, we can press @ and then let's go tomorrow. So we can remind ourselves to go through this question tomorrow at 3 PM, and let's say we had more of them. We can say tomorrow at 3:10 PM. So for all the questions we get wrong, we can build up a bank of questions we need to do for the coming days or weeks, and this means that we don't actually forget to go through the questions that we get wrong frequently. I find this really useful, and it also means that even if I'm just going about sort of my day-to-day business, say if I'm in the shops or something, I sometimes get a notification saying, with a question saying, what is the main role of neutrophils? I might be in the supermarket, I can pull my phone out, do the question in a couple of seconds. If I get it right, great. If I don't, then I can just put another tag on it again to do it for the next day. So it really does make revising seamless, really. So the last thing I'd recommend is, if you're using Notion on a desktop computer, so on a Mac or a Windows computer, you can use the Web Clipper tool, which is a plugin for Chrome, which means you can just share a web page directly to Notion. So it's a lot easier on iOS devices or iPadOS devices because you don't actually need this tool. But let's go into Safari and I'll show you what I mean. So we've got this web page open from Geeky Medics, and we're going to go to Share and then Notion at the top. So it then brings this menu up and we can choose which page we want to add it to. So I'm just going to add it to Physiology. Here we go. So now I've added this to Physiology, and if we go back, we can go back to Physiology in Topics, and we can see that this page is shared directly to Notion, and they've made a whole page for Notion for it. So this is great because it means you don't have to physically copy and paste a link into like a Word document or something, and then whenever you want to go and view that web page again, you have to follow the link. The web page is obviously directly in there, and you can do it straight from Safari without having to open up Notion or anything else. So I use this a lot if I find, for example, like an interesting article that's kind of related to the course. So I press share, add it to Notion, and then I know I won't forget that article because it will just be straight there, and it's really, really quick and easy to do. So this isn't a complete guide to Notion, obviously. This is just how to really get started and a few of the features which I find really useful on it. If you feel like you need a bit more of an in-depth tutorial, then please let me know in the comments below, and please remember to like and subscribe if you find this useful, and I will see you in the next video.